How's it going? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to do a little video on how to seam sheet vinyl. We're actually on a job itself. This is not a demo in my studio. We're on a real job here. So let's get into it. It's a wood grain vinyl, so it's a little bit different than your typical sheet vinyl seam. So I think a lot of people will struggle with this particular kind of vinyl. I'm going to break it down for you and make it easy to deal with. Okay, so you can see I've got it. See my two pieces here. I've got right there, it's overlapped, but if you can see it, it is perfectly matched up. You can't even hardly see the edge of it at all. And let me show you what I got going on here. So what I've done, I've cut a little slit, a U shape here, so I could get this dead on, this one here, and then this one that runs along here, you can see it's actually off just a little bit. These lines are so skinny, I don't want to get them exactly on top of one another. So what's going to happen is that when you try to cut it, if your blade goes any at all side to side like that, you're either going to get rid of the grout line, you're going to cut it completely out, or you're going to have a fat grout line because two parts of it's going to join together and make it fatter. So your grout line down through the seam there could disappear, or it could become a lot wider. So I choose to overlap the piece that's staying, this piece here, to bring it this way just a little bit, and I will cut this complete grout line and leave it on. I'll put my straight edge over on this side of it just a smidge, and I will cut and leave the whole grout line on the piece that I'm keeping over here, okay? What that does, it cuts it completely off of this and leaves the complete line on this. That way I'm not taking a chance of getting two run together or disappearing just a little bit. So just about a grout line thickness is how much I want this off. I don't want it to be perfectly lined up. You can see I got the distance from the grout line here, and that grout line is just off about the thickness of the grout line. So the back of this grout line is at the front of this grout line, okay? That's gonna allow it to, whenever I make a cut, to fall down there perfect, okay? Now you might say, well, what about this cut? I'm not cutting on this one. This is the one that I simply use to match it up with. I'm actually gonna make my cut over here on this one, right? On this line here. I just used it on a joint, on a wood plank joint here, so I could get both my lines this way and that way. Okay, so we're fixing to make this cut now. Definitely gonna get me a new blade in my knife, and a lot of people rag me on this using a carpet knife for vinyl. Typically don't do that, but I do like to especially use a carpet knife on vinyl seams just because the blade is thinner. These carpet blades are a lot thinner and sharper than a utility blade. So most of my cutting, I do use a utility knife, but just so happens I'm not today. But anyway, even if I do have my utility knife, I will switch it out when I make my vinyl seams for a vinyl seam. Okay, so what I was talking about a while ago, I'm leaving this grout line. I want to leave the grout line on this piece here because this is the piece that goes on over. And I showed you how I had it lined up and everything like that. So I want to barely bring my straight edge to this side of the grout line to make sure I leave the complete grout line on my straight edge. I'm going to do that all the way down. I don't want to cut any of it off of I don't want to cut any of the grout line off of my vinyl that I'm keeping. So I just give myself about a 1/16, maybe a 32nd there. I want plenty, so I'm not being, there's no chances of messing it up there. And that being done, I'm going to go ahead, sink my blade. It's very important, right here, it's very important that you keep your razor blade straight up and down. Again, If, like I was talking about a while ago, if it leans one way or other, the bottom piece or the top piece is going to be a little longer or shorter, and that will mess you up. So it's really important, keep your blade straight up and down. You just run this all the way down here, holding it real secure. You definitely don't want it to slide. Keeping the tension on your knife blade, again, making sure it stays perfectly straight up and down. Sliding against the side of the straight edge there. Okay, come to me here. I'm never going to pull my blade out of the cut. That way I don't have to put it back in and take a chance on getting it a little bit beside my cut. Hold my knife and my straight edge right there. Again, I want to just have my straight edge a little bitty piece over the line. And I'm not pulling my blade out until I get all the way to the end and I have to turn around. Okay. Alrighty, go ahead right there. Okay, I can't get any closer here now to the wall, so I am going to turn around. Use my left hand. I don't never like doing this, but to come back to my cut. There you go. If you don't feel like, for some reason, if you don't feel like you cut all the way through, which on this vinyl it does happen often, so I'll show you exactly what to do, okay? The very end right there, I'm just going to slide it straight over. I'll let you see exactly how much I got now. So you can see I have about, like I said, maybe an 1/8 inch, 1/16 or something like that. Now let me show you the how I address this if it's not cut all the way through. Okay, so whenever you raise up on the vinyl, you can see the felt on the back of this is not cut all the way through. I'm going to use the back of my blade because it's sharp still, and I'm just going to very lightly cut right down the back of that. That's just going to cut the felt that didn't get cut all the way through. Now, I normally will push it through the other way. Come up real close again. So this is the way I like to do it. I like to put the back of my knife in and push it straight forward. Just like that. If you'll fold it, if you'll raise up, it'll open up just like the seam is. And when it's at an angle, it actually will help you cut only the backing, maybe even at a slight angle versus if it's like this and you're trying to do it here. Maybe your blade will be a little bit off like that and you'll have a little extra backing sticking out the side of your cut here. If you have it at an angle, you're going to get it nice and cut so you don't have any extra backing on the side of your piece. What do you mean little extra backing? Let me show you here, okay? So, looking straight down on this piece. If I had extra backing, see the backing sticking out? But looking straight down, it's all nice and clean. There is no backing sticking out. That's what we want right there, okay? And you can see my seam here works out perfect how it already fell together there. Looks really good. See that? Looking really nice there. So that's going to go together lovely. Just going to finish making this cut all the way up through there. Okay, now I'm show you what we got going on here. So this is our fill piece that has not been anything glued yet. You can see we only got about a foot glued over right there. I mean, folded over. Want to be super, super duper careful that this does not move. That's why we only folded a foot, so we don't want to take a chance on it getting in a bind, snagging it, coming out of the door jambs, anything like that. And then I put some painter's tape on it to hold it back so it don't move. We don't want to touch that whatsoever. Again, it's very important that that don't move while we are using PSA, pressure sensitive adhesive, because once it's down there, once you get it stuck, it's going to be stuck, okay? Now, we done the same thing exactly right over there with this piece. We only used about a foot or so of the seam. So therefore, you can see how much now of this piece that we have to fold back to get back to our glue spot. That far piece was the very first piece. So on this piece, when we joined the seam, we only had about a foot folded over, same as we got here. So now we're going to glue almost this entire piece along with the foot of this piece. When we get to folding it over into the glue and stuff, we'll pick back up and show you what's going on. Okay, so I almost forgot about this and started putting it down there. As we put it down, you can see here, if we just push it straight down, if we just go straight down with it, you can see that hairline crack in it right there, okay? Just barely. What we're gonna, so what we're gonna do, as we get it there, we're gonna push forward and it's gonna close that gap up and put it down in the adhesive at the same time. So the adhesive is only, like I said, about a foot from the edge of that. So again, we're just gonna push it gently right over there to that, and then it'll zip up like a Ziploc bag if you hear it. Beautiful, just beautiful. After you get so far, go ahead and take your little seam roller and roll it down in the glue really good there, and that'll keep it from moving back out. I'm gonna do the exact same thing right here, and I'm gonna try to get close enough this time where you can hear it zip up like a Ziploc bag. Again, just pushing it as it sticks in the glue. It's getting it up there close. Let's see if you can hear this. Yeah, I don't know if you're going to be able to hear that. Got that down there. Roll this little area really good. What you're waiting for with the PSA, the pressure sensitive adhesive, you don't have to let it get completely dry. However, if you do, it should be clear like that. You can actually do it. You can actually roll your vinyl over into it when it's just a little bit milky if you wanted to. The thing about pressure sensitive adhesive, when it is completely dry like that, it's still super tacky. That is a releasable installation. For instance, next year they wanted to change this out for whatever reason. It should come up fairly decent without doing a bunch of damage. However, if you put it down in the glue while it is still wet, that will be a permanent bond. You will never get that stuff up. It is more specific, more particular about this, because once you stick it, it does stick in this when it's dry like this, rather than when it's wet. You can stick it down in there and move it just a little bit. So that's why I'm starting back here at the edge of the glue, pushing it forward. That way we don't have any chance of having it stuck in the dry adhesive and having a gap in it. So pushing it up to make sure we get it nice and tight the very first time. And this, what we got? This is the seam. It is absolutely looking beautiful. You can see right, so you can see right there where the little T joint was here, and it met up here. You can't even see that 1/8 inch on this side of the line where that joins, because it was matched up perfectly right there. So again, this is, my joint is just about an 1/8 inch right in there somewhere from this line. But we have a nice consistent grout line all the way down because of the way I done it versus it disappearing and getting fat, disappearing and getting fat, and so forth and so forth. Alrighty. Okay, after we get completely done there, you can see what Luke is doing. He's rolling the seam out there with a 75-pound roller. This is just to make sure it sticks real good, don't move on us. After we get it all put together, then we roll over it with the big seam roller, the big flooring roller, and that is 75 pounds, so that gets it stuck really good. The seam sealer, we have a part A and a part B, 2 little bitty bottles. Both of the contents fit inside the one bottle. A, we're going to do A first because A goes before B. It ends up being about a 1/2 bottle there. And then let's do B. This is a little thicker. These two mix together to become the sealer. Might have to put a little bit in there to get that out. I ain't never seen it that thick before. Give this a little shake to get the rest of that stuff out of there. There we go. That's how it should pour out. Now, I would normally say, don't shake this up. And I was going to show you how I do it. I'll show you how to do it anyway. This is a little thick out of the B bottle. So I'm going to take and shake it. However, I don't want to get bubbles in this. So what I normally do, I will normally roll it like this, and that will mix the two together without actually getting bubbles from it being shaken all up. But for whatever reason, I think I'm going to have to this time because we got some thick stuff in there. This stuff was just ordered too. I don't understand why it was like that. I don't think it's bad. It definitely just thickened up in the bottle. Let's see here. I might just have to let that settle for a minute to get rid of the bubbles. Okay, that looks pretty good now. All right, we'll let it set for a second and then we'll get to it. So this bottle cap has a little nipple on it right there, and that is intentional. That little piece right there actually goes right in between the two pieces of vinyl on the seam. So when it goes down in between there, it causes a tiny gap in the vinyl. Then the liquid comes out of that hole right there as it's opened up, and then when I drag it forward, it'll close right behind me, causing that liquid to go in between the two pieces and close right back up, and that will cause the two pieces to melt right together, and that's what we want. This is a chemical seal. All right, so this is a chemical weld. So come really close here, Luke. So I want to get, let's see here. There you go. So right here is my seam. I'm actually going to push down really good and get that piece to go right. Let's see here. I'm going to start down here so you can see this better. Start right here, and that way you can see the nipple go right in between the crack. There we go. So can you, yeah, so you see the tiny, tiny gap right there. It's actually gapped the vinyl open. See how it gaps there? And as I drag it, it closes right back up behind it. That's what we want. That, again, that just allows the sealer to get right down in the crack there. Come about right there. That way you can see it close up behind it. Okay, now watch as I pull it, you'll see a tiny gap. See that? Yeah, and it closes right back up with the sealer inside of the gap. Okay. So that's how you do it. We're now going to just run down this whole seam. You don't have to get carried away with it or anything like that. You don't want a ton of it on top. The main thing is getting it down in the crack. If it gets on top, it's good because it seals the top of it up. But the main thing is to get it down in and just a bit on top as well. So don't flood it or anything like that. Notice my 2 fingers on the nozzle itself keeps it pushed down in the crack, and my other hand pulls it straight back. Got one more to do like that right over here. That's how you seal your seams. That should help you out on all your jobs. We got the seam cut, we got it lined up, cut, glued, put together, and now sealed. The only thing is you need to stay off of that sealer. Keep this dust free for about 12 hours. Preferably 24 hours. You can get by with just maybe 3 or 4 hours until this dries to the touch. It's not going to be completely dried though. Give it 24 hours before you have any foot traffic or anything on it like that. Dust free again for 2 or 3 hours until it's dry to the touch. Thank you guys for tuning in to the channel. Until next time, FBSB's out.